Notes: putting equations into y equals or slope-intercept form. To solve an equation, you need to follow the 3-question method that Ms. Richardson uses. And the first question is, what do I need to get by itself? Okay, and on this one, it's going to be the variable or the y. You want to get the y by itself. So as I always said, you need to circle it because that's what you want to get by itself. The next question is, what do I need to get rid of? And you need to get rid of everything by it. Everything by it. How do I get rid of it? What's the opposite? And again, you're going to do the opposite of whatever's by it. Remember, you're always going to kill the weakest link first. You're usually going to add or subtract first. The opposite of add is subtract, and the opposite of multiply is divide. Okay? And always, always, always remember, what you do to one side, you must do to the other. This is to keep the equation balanced. Okay? So I'm going to go over the practice problems right here for you guys. Okay. You're always going to ask yourself these 3 questions for all the problems, and it's all about getting the y by itself. So I'm going to come over here and question number 1, what do I want to get by itself? The y. So I need to get rid of everything by it. So like in person, I like to cover this right here, and what's by it? The 3x. How do you get rid of a 3x? You subtract the x. How do I know that this 3x up here is positive? I know that because there's no negative in front of it. And what you do to one side of the equation, you must also do to the other. So I'm left with 1/3 y. Now, I have a -4 and a -3x. Can I put these together? No, you cannot put them together because they do not have the same last name. They are not like terms. So then what do I do next? To get rid of the times 1/3, I'm going to divide by 1/3, or as I like to show you guys, multiply by 3. So I'm going to multiply this side by 3, and then I have to multiply this whole side by 3. Okay, that's to get rid of it because I'm getting rid of a divided by 3 by multiplying by 3. So y is going to equal -9x minus 12. Problem number 2. What do I want to get by itself? The y. What do I need to get rid of? The 3x. How do you get rid of it? Minus 3x. Can I put that 52 and that 3x together? No, they do not have the same last name. So this would be your answer. This is simplified because y is by itself. It's a +1. Times +1 divided by +1 doesn't do anything to any problems. Okay? And then, let me try and scroll over here. Okay, go down here. Okay. So now, what do I want to get by itself? And to let y'all know, problem number 1 is going to be the exception to the rule. It's not going to be the rule. You're going to see it very rarely. I want to get the y by itself. So what do I need to get rid of? The minus x. How do I get rid of the minus x? I plus x. Now this is where a lot of students get mixed up. Can I put the 18 and the x together? Do they have the same last name? This is technically a +1x. This was a -1. They have different last names, so I cannot put them together. So I'm left with x plus 18 because now the y is by itself. I'm going to scroll down. And I'm working through all of these. I don't necessarily, when I'm doing them in class, go through all of them, but I definitely want y'all to see them here. So let's go over to this problem right here. And what do I need to get by itself? The what? Whoa, before you do anything, what does PEMDAS tell you to do first? The P in PEMDAS is parentheses. So I have to get rid of these parentheses before I can do anything else. So 1/2 times x is 1/2 x. Half of -10 is -5. Now, what do I want to get by itself? I want to get the y by itself. What do I need to get rid of? What's by it? The +6. How do you get rid of the +6? You -6. Now, is this -6 going to go under the x or the 5? Who does it have the same last name as? The 5. It's like Madonna or Drake. They're just one name. And that is it. Your y is now by by itself. These are actually the easiest problems. And remember, you can always multiply in the calculator. If you're not sure how to do that 1/2, you do 1 divided by 2 times -10. And that would have given you your -5. Use the calculator. That is fine. All right, next problem. What do I want to get by itself? The negative, oops, sorry. I overshot that one, didn't I? Okay. What do I want to get by itself? The -3y. What do I need to get rid of? The 6. How do I get rid of it? -6. Now, what's different about this problem, it just has the y on the right. That's the only difference. Okay, we're still getting y by itself. If you want to, you can rewrite the whole problem before you start, but that's more work and it's more potential for error. So 2x minus 6 is equal to -3y. So here's our first two-stepper. Now, what do I want to get by itself? The y. So what do I need to get rid of? What is by the y right here? What is that -3 and that y doing? They are multiplying. How do I get rid of multiply? With divide. And when I come over here, I like to split it because it reminds me to do it to both of them. I want to make sure I remind myself to divide both of them by -3. 2 divided by -3 doesn't do anything pretty, so I'm going to leave it as a fraction. -6 divided by -3 is +2. And if y'all see any errors, just remind me, let me know so I can go back and fix them later. Next problem. What do I want to get by itself? The y. And one of the things that I always like to point out is what is in front of this y right here? That's actually a -1. Write it in whenever you see that negative so you're least likely to forget that negative when you pull the problem down. So I need to get rid of an x. How do I get rid of an x? I minus x. So I'm left with -1y. Don't forget that negative. Minus x plus 47. I can't put them together because they have different last names. They're not like terms. When the -1 and the y are right next to each other, they are multiplying. To get rid of multiply, I divide by everything, the negative and the 1. Because a negative, what it does is it makes everything the opposite. Okay, so it changes all the signs. That -x becomes a positive, and that +47 becomes a negative. And that is your answer. Remember, we're just simplifying. You're not going to have one pretty answer at the end. Okay? Now, the last two examples. Number 7. What do I want to get by itself? The y. And I notice I have a negative, so I'm going to write that -1 in there. And I got to get rid of a minus x. How do you get rid of a minus x? You add x. I'm left with x plus 26. I can't put them together because they don't have the same last name. Now what do I need to get rid of? The times -1, because remember, whenever a number and a letter are next to each other, they are multiplying. To get rid of multiply, we divide. And here is the number 2 mistake in math right here, is forgetting to divide the second number by a negative. That's the reason I like to write it out and split it over here, just to remind myself to do both of them. That's going to be a minus 26. There you go. Next example. What do I want to get by itself? The y, but I notice I got parentheses. Got to get rid of those parentheses first. Negative times a negative is a positive. 1/4 times x is just 1/4 x. And 1/4 of -100 is -25. Remember, you can always do that in the calculator. You can do 1 divided by 4 times 100 in the calculator. Okay? Now, what do I want to get by itself? The y. So what do I need to get rid of? That +3. How do I get rid of +3? With a -3. Now, where am I going to line that -3 up over here? Under the x or the 25? Who does it have the same last name as? The 25. So I'm left with 1/4 x. -25 minus 3 is a bigger negative, so you're just getting further in debt. So if I owe $25 to one person and I owe 3 to another, I owe $28. It just becomes a bigger negative number. Combine them. The last example for you. What do I want to get by itself, the y. And what do I need to get rid of? On this one, I just need to get rid of that times 6. How do you get rid of times 6? You divide. And I split it over here just to remind myself, just for bookkeeping reasons. 24 divided by 6 is 4 equals y. And there are your examples of simplifying for y.